Hello, hello, hello. Here we are. It is indeed showtime. I am excited. This is the first of 5 masterclasses that I am going to be journeying you through this week. We're going to be exploring the neuroscience, what goes on in our brains when we aren't feeling enough. Now, I'm going to wait and see who's going to hang out with us this lunchtime. It's a little experiment. I usually run my free trainings of an evening. I do them a few times a year. They're already always incredibly high impact, full of great value, loads of practical wisdom. But lunchtimes is a new thing for me. So we're going to wait and see who's coming on to hang out with us. Hello, hello, hello. Here you all gather. Good. I was going to say good evening, but it's not. Good lunchtime to you all. Tasha's in the house. Woohoo! Hey, Tasha. You get a little feature in a moment, actually, except I can't get the clip to work, but it's all good. Do let us know who you are, where you're watching from. If you are watching on Facebook, I'm streaming to 3 places. So, hi, Makita. We are streaming live into 3 places. You'll notice that I'm streaming through something called StreamYard. So please give StreamYard permission for me to see your names and your gorgeous little profile pictures, because it's lonely out here otherwise, and I want to know who I'm chatting to and how I can support you most. So the more involved you get in the next half an hour, I'm going to say half an hour, it might be more like 40 minutes today, because I want to explain about the contest, etc. But for the rest of the week, I'm really, really being precious, knowing that your time is super valuable, and I want to deliver you high impact, game-changing, life-altering content within the half an hour every day. So do let me know your name, where you're watching from. I believe we may be getting some international. Yes, we are going global. We may be getting some international viewers. I've had a few messages from people in Australia and New Zealand. I believe they may be friends of Sharon's. Thank you, Sharon, ever so much for watching. So if you're live, do say hi. Tell us where you're watching from, whereabouts in the world you are, whether you're sitting in your car on your lunch break, or if you're watching on replay, also comment, because I will go back and check in all of the comments. Hey, Tammy G's in the house. Also amazing. So in order to stick with this half an hour, I am going to get started. Please, please, please join us with an open heart, an open mind, and prepare to really begin to understand why you think, feel, and behave the way you do, and understand how we can undo what I believe to be one of the biggest pandemics that's going at the moment, and that is the pandemic of not-enough-ness. I think it's a global phenomenon. I'm seeing it absolutely everywhere in my community, my clients, my friendship groups, where we are having our trust in ourselves completely conditioned out. And I want to talk to you about all of the reasons why with a few slides over the next half an hour or so. So let's dive right in. Thanks, Tasha. She's getting real excited, even though she already knows how awesome it is. And it keeps getting more awesome and more awesome and more awesome, Tasha. You should see what I have lined up for everybody this week. So I'm going to switch this ratio over so you can actually see my slides. Hey, Jenny, well done for watching outside school. Try live. Yeah, if you can come live is best. But replay is also available so that you can catch up and go back over everything you need to know. But welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so lovely to see some new, beautiful names and faces joining us, as well as some old faves. We have built a beautiful More Than Enough community over the last 2 years since I founded the project. And these are some of the beauties here at the bottom of this slide. But my name is Naomi Newland. You'll have to excuse the croaky throat. I had a very jolly, jubilant Jubilee weekend. I hope you all did too. And my throat and voice is suffering today, but I'm all good. But I'm hoping we're going to last the half hour. I've got my lozenges and plenty of water. So I do apologise in advance for my croakiness. I don't usually sound quite as croaky as this. But my name is Naomi Newland. I am a solution-focused psychotherapist, a hypnotherapist, and an EFT practitioner. Now, I specialise particularly in supporting people with their confidence and their self-esteem. And in order for me to take my work out into the masses, at the start of the pandemic, I took this idea that I'd been sitting on for a very long time, where I wanted to be able to transform people's lives at the level of their subconscious mind, using all the tools and tricks and practical wisdom I gathered over my 12-year career in supporting people change their mindsets and put it into a program. Now, that program became the More Than Enough experience, and I have been delivering this for now over 2 years. We have taken hundreds of women through the program. I'm now training up practitioners in the program, and it's an incredibly exciting time to be able to support so many with so much chaos going on in the world, because I recognize that we're all tolerating a lot of uncertainty. We've all been through a number of very challenging years, and the uncertainty isn't over. The press is full of sensationalism, and it's a worrying time with lots of talk of negativity, and that does not help anybody who's struggling with a negative narrative, or anybody that's feeling overwhelmed or anxious or worried about life at the moment. So I'm here to be the antidote to that this week, I hope. So a little bit about me. A little tiny bit about me. I'm going to be sharing a bit more about my story as we go through the week, just because I think it's inspirational to demonstrate how far I've come by using my own mindset techniques, because I haven't always been as comfortable speaking on a camera. I definitely was never comfortable doing public speaking, and I had this idea for the More Than Enough project many, many years ago, and I sat on it for such a long time because, ironically, I didn't believe I was good enough. So there's quite a juicy story to share with you there. But historically, my background in corporate life was in sales and marketing for one of the biggest brands, till I had my first 3 children, well, my only 3 children. They came quite quickly together, and that gave me the encouragement to tap into what at the time was my hobby of teaching people how to do hypnobirthing, which was something I had taken into my own family's lives, and I wanted to share with others because I found it such an inspiring and empowering experience myself. So I spent 12 years as a hypnobirthing practitioner. But in the year 2017, I decided that I wanted a different life. I decided that I wanted more. I decided that I was fed up with playing small. And I went back and I retrained in psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and emotional freedom technique. Off the back of that, I created the Rest Fest Women's Wellness Festival, and that has been one hell of a journey. One hell of a journey. We got hit really hard by the pandemic. It's sucked up all my life savings and caused me a lot of stress and strain, but I can still smile and find the love for something that has taught me an awful lot. In the year 2019, one of the other highlights of my life was taking my 3 children out of school for 4 months. We went off Greek island hopping whilst they were still in junior school. And alongside the festival, alongside developing the More Than Enough method, something else that I'm incredibly proud of is that incredibly proud, the right word, just incredibly proud that all of the work that I've been doing on myself over the last few years has really enabled myself and my ex-husband to separate back at the end of last year in a really positive, really way that feels very comfortable for me and my children. We're putting our children first, and we've had a really positive uncoupling after 22 years together. And I really credit the work that I have done to be able to put me in a position to do that, because 5-10 years ago, I would not have managed to tolerate some of the unexpected things that have happened in my life over the last few years with quite as much positivity, grace, and I want to say ease. It hasn't always been easy, but it has been incredibly positive. So I just want to let you know that you're not alone. I have also struggled with anxieties, worries, overwhelmed, thinking that I wasn't enough to be able to achieve the things that really have now proven to set my soul on fire. So I've been through the journey too. I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything this week that I'm not prepared to do myself. So I'm just setting that stage for you. You're in very, very safe hands, and I have some incredible experiences to share with you throughout this week. So, my love, you are in the right place. I want to let you know that let me know which of these you relate to. Let me know which of these come up for you here when I read these out to you. But I want to let you know that you're in the right place. I don't want to waste anybody's time. You know, if you feel super confident and you've got everything in your life sorted, you know, then you're probably not in the right place. But if you are one of the kinds of people that are attracted to working with me and going through my materials, is somebody who usually finds themselves getting stuck in spirals of despair and worry. You know, when those thoughts just go round and round and round and round, and you cannot seem to break that cycle, then you're in the right place. If you spend a lot of time worrying about things that haven't yet worried, if you're the kind of person that thinks about all the if, buts, and maybes, but those problems are yet to materialize, then there might be some low level kind of anxious feelings going on there. Then you are in absolutely the right place. Now, I wonder which ones are relating to you. Do let me know in the comments. But I wonder if you're the kind of person who, after you've been out socially, and that might be a stretch for you, because I get if you have more introversion tendencies, that actually socializing can be a big deal for a lot of people, and just the thought of that experience can be very worrying. But I wonder if you're the kind of person that goes along to social events and then afterwards you spend a disproportionate amount of time analysing what you did, what you said, what people might be thinking of you, and getting yourself all caught up into a cycle of worrying what other people might think of you. I wonder if that's if you relate to that at all. Something my clients say to me all of the time is, I feel like I'm my own worst enemy. I wouldn't dare speak to any of my friends or family the way that I speak to myself. So if you have that if you recall having, or you relate to having some kind of negative inner narrative, so that the voices and the words that you use inside, if you scold yourself, or you're putting yourself down, or you recognize that negative narrative, then you're absolutely in the right place. Now, I wonder if you find making decisions really difficult. I often see this being reflected in those that aren't feeling enough, or they have low self-worth or self-esteem, that they struggle to have that inner trust in themselves that they're able to make good decisions. Therefore, they get stuck in procrastination. They don't take any action forward. They're spending a lot of time being still. So if you find making decisions difficult, then I've got some support for you this week. The perfectionist thing, Marquita, thank you for owning that one. We will definitely be touching on that this week. This is something I see in so many women, trying to do things to such a high standard that they're really setting themselves impossible bars to meet, because simply we can have it all, but we can't do it all, and we have to also be able to ask for help, support, delegate, all of these beautiful strategies that we'll touch on a little later. I wonder if you're the kind of person that agrees to say yes. If you're a yes person when you really don't want to, like hands up, used to be me, used to have tons of people pleasing people responses, because I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be helpful, I wanted to be supportive, and actually that's fine, but as long as it's not coming at the detriment of your own emotional well-being. If you're approaching burnout, or you're doing it in order to gain external validation, for example, let's look at the motivation of why we become people pleasers. That's something we can touch upon this week. Comparing yourself to others. Who gets stuck in the trap of comparanoia, where we spend so much time, a disproportionate amount of time, looking at how our friends and family, people on social media, lives compared to ours, and we're very judgmental about ourselves and sometimes about other people in those scenarios too. And just to put this into context, it's really normal to compare. It's part of being human. It's part of human behavior. But because of the access we now have to be able to compare, once upon a time, you could only compare your life on small things. But now the explosion of social media has made it really easy for us to see the highlights of other people's lives. And we end up comparing somebody else's highlight reels to our everyday normal minutiae. So comparison is a thing. The more we do it, the more we ingrain it in, and the more it becomes a habit as well. And when we're feeling worthy and we feel enough, you'll find that we stop doing that as well. If you're the kind of person that finds it very easy to hide away, if you feel like you don't matter, or you're not lovable, or it's much better if, what's the point? What have I got to say? What value can I add here? If you're the kind of person that likes to take to sit back and observe, and that's great as well, because a lot of very good coaches are really good reflectors. But if you find it easier to hide away more than you would actually own up to or like, then you're in the right place as well. And that might be hiding away at work meetings. It might be shying away from doing presentations. It might be shying away from putting your hand up when you've got something really great with great value to offer. Now, this one is over apologizing. Like, genuine, heartfelt apologies are sometimes necessary. But a pattern, and something that I see being in anybody that's struggling with their self-worth or their confidence or overthinking, is the over apologizing, where we apologize for stepping on somebody. Someone steps on our toe, we apologize for this, we apologize for that, apologize. If you are an always apologizer, you're in the right place as well, because when we start to heal our self-worth and our enoughness, then all of these little habits begin to fade away. Yes, MTE is our little acronym for more than enough. So more than enough, I'm going to tell you a lot about over this week. It is a method that has grown into an experience and a training academy, but that is the brand. It's called More Than Enough, because that is my hope for every human on this planet. My big vision is to reactivate the enoughness on every single person in this planet at the level of their cells and the level of their fiber and their souls, that they genuinely reinstall the self-worth that they were born with, so they believe in themselves again. So thank you for sharing that, Tasha, as well, though. Lots of loving support going out here today. Whoop, 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 whoop. So I hope you all know that you're in the right place now. Can everyone see your comments, Zara? Yeah, we're broadcasting out to 3 separate places. I can't see the comments on YouTube. I can only see the comments that are coming in through Facebook. So it'll depend whether you're on my Facebook page, which is Naomi and the More Than Enough movement, or if you're on my Facebook group, which is the More Than Enough, the Getting Good Enough Club. So you may or may not be able to see everybody's comments at the same time as well. You're on the Facebook page. Well done, Zara. You're in the right place, honey. Soak it all up. I can see your messages. That's the most important thing. It's great to know who I'm chatting with here. So despite having all of these let's call them chinks in our armor, let's call them, little wonky patterns, is a way I like to refer. We're going to talk a lot about the subconscious mind tomorrow and moving forwards. But the subconscious mind works on patterns, and these will be patterns that have been embedded into your subconscious. And so despite having these patterns that play out, which aren't very helpful sometimes, and despite having all of these things going on, that you've got a little voice telling you that there must be something more, that you are not living into your potential, that it's got to be easy in this, there's got to be a solution. And that's exactly why you're here. So I really want to congratulate all of you for showing up live. I want to say hello to all of you watching on replay later, and just let you know that if you've got a little voice just nudging you to be here, that is for a very good reason. And so just continue to listen to that intuition, because that intuition will not let you down. So here she is, our lovely Tasha. Now I realised that when I embedded these slides, that because they're PDFs, I can't actually play you Tasha's a lovely video, because Tasha does a great testimonial. She was one of our prize winners. When I do a week-long extravaganza of an experience, I give away 1 free place, 1 sponsored space on my upcoming More Than Enough experience. Now we're moving on to More Than Enough 6, which starts in the middle of June. Tasha was one of our lovely winners back in More Than Enough 4, and this is a gorgeous testimonial from her. And what I will do is drop the link afterwards so that you can watch this separately. It's not going to play because I downloaded them as PDFs. Boop, never mind, I'm good enough. Now, the More Than Enough experience is a 10-week immersive, life-changing experience that takes subconscious transformation, brain-based coaching, an incredible sisterhood, combines it with everything that if I had, and I was able to support my perfect clients on a one-to-one basis, I've packaged it all up into this incredible experience that's full of masterclasses, workbooks, subconscious transformational MP3s, so that we look at flipping the script on your negative narrative to rebuild your self-belief so that you can boldly believe that anything is possible for you when you've got the right support. And that is my promise to everybody who comes through the More Than Enough experience. So, my loves, it is a game changer. Thank you for saying, Tasha, that free place changed your life. It's an absolute honor to have you in my world and to keep on supporting you. So the prize is astonishing. Like, it literally is It's my life's work, but it also is making a massive impact in so many women's way, in the way that it's put together, the way that it's presented, the way that the space is held for you. I'm going to be talking little bits and bobs about more than enough throughout the whole week, because this is what the neuroscience of not enoughness has been based upon, taking small taster elements from my more than enough experience and pulling them here together for your week. So this prize is a game-changing prize. Now, I'm going to tell you how to win it at the end of the presentation today, at the end of the masterclass. So do hang tight, watch live, find out exactly how you enter that prize, and watch the video that Tasha so kindly shares here as well. So let's get on with committing to being here this week. Well done for showing up live, everybody. Well done for watching on replay. Now, if we're not feeling worthy, if we're not feeling ourselves, if we're struggling with worries, then our subconscious mind is going to be playing out patterns of this isn't worth it. You aren't worth this time, I imagine. And so what I ask of you this week is to really commit to putting yourself first for half an hour for the masterclasses, and then to action the homework, to enter the contest, and make a little promise to yourself. Because do you ever find that it's really easy to make promises and keep promises for others? When it comes to making promises for yourself, we let ourselves down. And so this week, wouldn't it be perfect if this week was a week that you showed up every day for yourself for half an hour? Wouldn't it be perfect if this week was the week when you took actions that made a massive lasting impact to the rest of your life? Wouldn't it be amazing this week if you learned some things that you can go away and share with your families and friends immediately? Wouldn't it be amazing this week when you have really learned the art of self-mastery by taking the unconscious into the consciousness? Yes, I believe it is. So take a little moment to make that promise to yourself now. Put it in your diaries. Ring fence the time for 12 o'clock. Set yourself an alarm so that you're here every day at 12 if you possibly can come live. If not, commit yourself to watch the replay whilst you're cooking dinner, whilst you're putting the laundry away, and really making good use of your time this week so that you can soak up all the far-reaching benefits. So let's have a look at how the week looks then. Why is it that you want to commit to showing up for at least half an hour every day? This is the journey that we are going to be going on. We're starting here today, obviously, with the power of suggestibility, looking about how others influence us, what that does to our subconscious brains, and practical actions that we can take to prepare us for the rest of the week and be able to take that self-doubt and turn it into self-belief. On Tuesday, we're going to really start uncovering our belief systems that are stored in the subconscious and look at how those beliefs impact our behavior. Before moving on Wednesday, understanding then how we pass that on, how we have inherited these suggestions that have become beliefs, and how we get to break that chain, how we get to break the habits, the old habits of being ourselves, and begin to rebuild that self-confidence throughout the week, again, so that we pass that on to all the people around us. On Thursday, we're going to look at rewiring. So this is like my favorite topic. We're going to be rewiring the positivity within our subconscious minds, because newsflash, it gets to be different now. And on Friday, I'm going to do something that I've never done before. So I'm a tiny bit nervous, but also incredibly excited. Lots of anticipation. And I'm going to be offering a live coaching call to someone who's committed this week to showing up, to entering the contest, to somebody who's willing to be coached live and be broadcast. It doesn't have to go be deep, but I'm going to take you through the process. So by Wednesday, Thursday, you'll know whether you'll be available for that on Friday. Thank you. The coaching calls are awesome. Thank you. MT changed Tasha's life. She's doing things now that she never would have dreamt of doing before. More than enough. Yes, Tasha, I'm so privileged to watch you fly. Okay, so that's what the week looks like. So we have a deep journey to go on together, and we're going to dive in now to understanding the power of suggestibility. Excuse my throat, my voice. Let's dive in. So, why is it then that we feel, think, and behave in ways that might suggest that we don't feel enough? Or another way of putting that is ways that don't feel good, or ways that have emotions. We experience emotions that don't make us feel great about our lives. So, the way that we think, feel, and behave the way that we do all begins, of course, this is a neuroscience week, so we're going to be looking at the brain, but we're going to be looking at how the brain receives this information via the nervous system, via our felt lived experiences. But before we do that, we're going to understand a little bit of the basics about how the brain has evolved and our expectations from modern life. So, modern day living is an incredibly safe time to live, even with pandemics, even with wars, even with the rising cost of living. 2022, statistically, is the safest place and time to be born. If you're here in the UK, we have, whilst you might argue that it's flawed, but we do have systems in place to make sure that we are well cared for, to make sure that we can eat, to make sure that we are well looked after. And this is a new experience for living in the year 2022. Modern living is incredibly safe. However, our brains, our human brains, have been evolving throughout the historical lifetime of human beings being on this planet. And actually, the way that the human brain has evolved is very, very slowly. There has been very little changes since we became two-legged walking humans. The brain is formed in very simple terms in 3 layers. The triune brain, we'll look at the primal functioning, the emotional functioning, and the executive functioning in simple terms. 3 layers all evolved over the top of one another. Human brains are actually only 40% wired and fired upon birth. So they are 60% open to being influenced by our environment. Now, if we look to our closest mammal cousin, the chimpanzee, their brains are 60% formed, wired and fired against birth. They're much more mature and able to be independent and ready to go out into the world, to be separated from their parents. But human babies' brains are very a low level of wiring and firing. So the cells all exist, but they're not yet connected up. And that's because it has been important for a human throughout the evolutionary process to be able for their brain to be what we call plastic. So the neuroplasticity of the brain, it is malleable and it's able to change the neural networks and the pathways within the brain. And that's very important because that has led to our survival. Because if you're a baby that's born in the Amazon jungle, your brain's going to need to adapt to an entirely different environment to whether you're been born in a city centre, let's say New York or London. Your environment's going to be very different. So your brain needs to be able to adapt to that environment. So our brains have an incredible level of malleability in them as humans. Over time, that changes. There are some very key areas in adolescence where the brain takes on board this wiring and firing, but also it was believed that kind of by the time you get to like 16, 18, 20, that your brain is formed and that is it. We are the way that we are. But what we know now through the live wiring process, that this is a lifelong experience of your brain changing, evolving. And we're going to talk a lot about that this week. So the human brain not evolved very much. Modern living involved and evolving very, very rapidly. Life is changing at incredible speed. The progress that we are making as a human race is phenomenal. But the human brain is still very much focused on survival rather than thriving. Now, the problem with that is, in order to survive, the brain focuses on fear-based responses, because it is surveilling it's like doing a risk assessment all of the time. How can I keep this human here safe? What do I need to do? So the fight or flight response is part of our success as a human being. It's a really important response. We're going to talk about that hopefully sometime in the week, not too much today. But it is important that is able to be fired off by our emotional experiences. So we're very open to our emotions. But when we look at modern living and we get stuck in this comparison cycle where we can compare our lives to so many others and everybody's life seems jolly and happy and like everyone's thriving, everyone's having a wonderful time in all aspects of their life. Like, we make up these stories about others. We make a lot of judgment from little snippets of other people's lives. Whereas our brain is still very much in this survival mode. So it is more based on fear-based feelings in order to keep us safe, whereas modern living is suggesting to us that we should have everything sorted out by now, that we should be happy because we've got so much, and we know we've got beautiful houses, lovely homes, a life in comparison to our ancestors, and we should be happy. That's the imprint that modern environment is giving to our brains. And so there's a misconnection here with the brain actually being wired up to be focused on fear-based feelings to keep us safe, compared to the life we feel like we should be living. And that's what is the start, I believe, of these not good enough feelings, because we are being told that our life should be this way, but the brain hasn't evolved enough to be able to handle as much pleasure and happiness at a neuroconnective level. But it can be changed. So that's what we're coming on to next. So our brains, in order for us to survive as the human race, have got what's called the negativity bias. Now, there's a lot of research around the negativity bias. You might find some reports that report that it's a 5-to-1 bias. Some other reports that I've read it's a 2.5-to-1 bias. But basically what that means is that negative experiences are far more sticky to our brains and our thinking and our thoughts than positive ones. I always say it's like our brains are like Velcro for insults, but they bat away all of the compliments and we forget those. So when we have a negativity bias, we tend to recall and think about more negative experiences. And even if they hold the same magnitude, a positive experience and a negative experience, the negative experience is going to stick more. And we will feel that way more intensely. So let's say you put a social media post up and you had 5 positive comments. The one negative comment will be the one that you will think about and you will replay, and that will be sticky in your mind. So then we tend to dwell on those experiences, those comments, those events, much more than pleasant ones. And then we begin to focus more and more on the negativity. And now the danger in this, the mistake that I see people making, is believing that these negative thoughts are the truth. So when we start listening to this negative narrative, which has the negative bias, we start to believe that that is the truth, that is the narrative of our lives. So does anyone relate to having this negativity bias? Oh, excuse my throat, people. Excuse my throat. Oh, thanks, Marquita. Yes, everyone will want that free coaching call on Friday. Absolutely, definitely. I've got some lozenges, but I can't suck and speak at the same time. And thank you, Tasha, for saying the science is incredible and solidified everything to you. So let me know if you recognise this a negativity bias that we all have. Now, the great thing that I've been explaining about the brain is that it is so plastic that even though we recognise that the brain inherently has this negativity bias, once we take this unconscious pattern into our consciousness, and we'll be talking about the difference between unconscious and consciousness tomorrow and Wednesday, once we recognise it, we can rewire it for more optimism, hope, and positivity. We just got to recognize it first. And that's what today's all about. It's really building up your self-awareness. So we recognize this negativity bias. It's much more likely for us to relate to negative experiences and for those to be the spirals of doubts and despair. It's part of being human, okay? It's part of being human. But it doesn't have to be this way when you take the route of self-empowerment, when you take the route of reconditioning that wiring and firing that takes place in the mind. So here we go. So that's the negative bias. If you relate to that, let me know in replay chat as well which parts of that you relate to. And I think what's unhelpful about modern living as well is that we are just surrounded by so much negativity at the moment. You know, the sensationalism in the press. You know, I get that there's there's things that are a lot of things that are going on in world events. I mean, just look at trying to fly at the moment and the cost of living, energy prices, wars, all of these things. But by taking our attention to the negativity, because media thrives on sensationalism, like to read about normal everyday things doesn't sell newspapers, doesn't make headlines, doesn't get the viewers. And so sensationalism is part of our life, like negative sensationalism. And it's about recognizing that, we will always hear about the one plane that takes off, but not the 999,000. Sorry, the one plane that crashes, not the 999,000 that take off every day. It's also about viewing our life through the lens of getting a full picture as well, because we'll very often be focused in upon that negativity. Now, I'm going to crack on because I've already got so much I want to say in so little time. Then I want to just give you a bit of an experience to just really start settling into this idea of how powerful our minds are as well, because our minds are, when we can tap into the power, especially of the subconscious, we can really access the kind of beliefs, the kind of unlocking your limits. We can really step into this place of feeling, behaving, and thinking that we are more enough. And that will have such a dramatic impact on many areas of your life. But we're just going to spend a little moment to close our eyes. I'm getting distracted by the comments. I'm trying to read the comments and the slides as well. But we're just going to take a little moment to close the eyes and just have a little experiment here to demonstrate one of my points. And so if you're quite hyped up, or you've just spent a little moment rushing around at lunchtime, you can just take 2 minutes to just settle down with your eyes closed for a moment. I'm just going to talk you through something called a guided visualization. Just going to give you some visualizations, some suggestions, just see how they play out for you here over the next few minutes. So I'd love to invite you to just slow your breath down for literally 1 or 2 minutes. And we start by doing that by breathing in through the nose for a count of 7 and out through the mouth for a count of 11. So breathing in for 7 through the nose. Really extending the breath out for a count of 11. Just by slowly and gradually easing our breathing pace right the way down, we're going to settle our nervous system. We're going to enable ourselves to produce endorphins so that we can begin to think a little clearer, gain some more clarity in our minds. And as we slow the breath down, we can access that imaginative part of the mind, the really powerful, creative space. And that kind of place where if I asked you to imagine what your front door looks like right now, and you could tell me the colour and the shape and the size and the texture, the number on the door, the materials that it's made from, those kind of things. So some people can visualise in quite high technicolor detail, others just get a sense of, and that's okay. Wherever you are on that continuum is okay. So I'm going to ask you to imagine now going on a beautiful spring day stroll through glorious, glorious countryside. You can smell the bees, see the bees and smell the trees as you take a lazy and hazy path through some beautiful countryside, just really noticing all the colours that surround you. You've been walking for days and hours and miles. It's been a very long walk. You're starting to feel a little fatigued now. And ahead of yourself on this walk, you notice the most beautiful, quaint little cottage that you've ever possibly imagined. And so now you start to conjure up a picture of the cottage in your mind, just how stunning it looks in the distance. And as you get closer and closer, you begin to appreciate the materials that this pretty little dwelling has been made from. And as you approach the gate, you begin to notice the gardens, the outside environment. You notice the colours, the plants, the shapes and the sizes. And as you place your hand on this cottage gate, which is incredibly inviting, you're just taking steps forward and forward and forward, opening up that gate and feeling the weight of the gate and the material that it's made from. That's it. And as you approach the cottage, getting much, much closer, you wrap a tap on the door. As the door swings open, you are welcomed by the most inviting smell you've ever experienced. Perhaps it's that smell of freshly baked bread. So delicious, setting all of your taste buds into a tantalized state. Perhaps something that really, really gets you excited is a roast dinner, that smell of roasting away the vegetables and all the trimmings that delight you. Or perhaps it's a freshly baked cake. Perhaps it's something chocolatey or something fruity, whatever really inspires you to eat your favorite foods. Just imagining that smell now. For me, it's that smell of freshly baked bread. Smell the warmth just drifting up my nostrils, and every little morsel, every little scent of aroma is just making me feel ready now, just making me feel really excited about entering this cottage, ready to devour some freshly baked bread. Now, as you here in this space and place, recognize those smells. You breathe them all in, and it's lunchtime. Perhaps you're feeling a little hungry. Perhaps the stomach begins to rumble. Perhaps you notice some saliva being produced in the mouth. As even though these are just suggestions, your body does respond in real time to the things that we tell our mind. And so you can open those eyes now. Just coming back as we were. Hello, Victoria. Coming back as we were. And I wonder what you experienced there. Do tell me in the comments whether that got your hunger, your satiety excited. Oh, I wonder if it made your mouth water. I wonder if you're feeling really hungry now. I wonder what your favourite food was. But that's just a small, very little experiment in how certain thoughts can create certain responses within our bodies. Because the conscious mind and the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind, they do not differentiate between reality and imaginary. And so this is where the power of suggestibility impacts our not-enough-ness. This is where the power of suggestibility impacts our self-belief. This is where the power of suggestibility impacts any self-doubts that you might be holding. Because suggestibility is all about accepting and acting upon the suggestion of others. And we've already identified that our brain is very adaptable to our environment. And the way that the brain adapts throughout our adolescence and growth periods throughout our lives is from the power of suggestibility. We're directly being suggested to by all of our environments around us. So suggestibility is being impacted by others. And now let's suppose that we have had some adverse life experiences, or we've had some setbacks, or we've had some even very, what I'm going to call normal, and I'm going to do that in air bunny quotes because I don't believe there is any such thing as normal really. But if we've had quite an average, let's say an average upbringing, there will still be times when we have had negative events that happen to us, negative comments made. And those suggestions that are coming from other people will be accepted at the level of subconscious. And eventually, if we repeat them over and over and over enough to ourselves, they start to become our belief systems, which we're going to move into tomorrow. But we are highly suggestible as humans. We are taking on board messages of not enoughness throughout all of our lives. So the way that we are parented, there's a lot of research that shows that parenting, the way that we are parented or cared for as young people, has the most impact upon our self-esteem. The way that we show up in relationships, or the way that we have had relationships in our past, that will also impact our relationships that we take forward with us into our future lives. Society has a lot to say about our enoughness, and I think we're all relating to the experience of being females here. If you're not, you are all welcome. But society has a lot to say about minority groups. Society has a lot to say about the gender pay gap. Society has a lot to say about the role of women. And we can take that all on board as not enoughness. Social media, I think, is one of the biggest problems for not enoughness in modern living. The educational system, the one size fits all approach, is very limiting for a lot of us growing up. And because teachers have this authoritarian influence over us, that actually makes our suggestibility much more I want to go more into depth with the suggestibility, but when somebody is in a position of authority, so it's essentially when they're in white coats, or they're teachers or authority figures, they tend to be even more impactful to our suggestibility. A lot of research around that. The advertising culture that we are raised in, all adverts are designed to tell us about all of the areas of our lives where we are not enough. And just a quick snippet here that something that I found very interesting was in France. They did a whole province that banned all advertising across the radio, billboards. There was no advertising allowed in this whole province. And what they monitored was that emotional health and mental health problems completely were eradicated very, very quickly, or were very much increased. Let's say eradicated, but it's a little extreme, but were very decreased mental health, increased mental wellness from the banning of advertising, telling us that we're not enough unless we've got this holiday, this car, these clothes, just the really unhelpful beauty standards that are being set for men and women, and for all genders as well. When we've experienced trauma in our life, that has a massive impact to our enoughness. And now these might be big traumas, adverse experiences, or they might be a series of what we call little T's, small traumas throughout our life as well, which you might overlook as an impact to your not enoughness. Bullying is incredibly damaging to our enoughness at that time when we're biochemically and hormonally changing at schools, particularly in high school years and those teenage years. To be bullied at that age can be very limiting. And many, many other life experiences I'm sure you can all relate to, where your not enoughness comes from, and we're going to be exploring that this week. And so what we've established so far is that the brain is very plastic and available for change, and that is part of being human. But it does have this negativity bias. But as much as we are inherently programmed to be hypervigilant for danger, we can also use the wonderful benefits of rewiring and recoding the subconscious mind to be more optimistic, helpful, and positive. And that's what we're going to be talking about this week, tapping into that part of the brain, which, if you are a worrier, if you are somebody that's slightly anxious or has had anxious feelings in the past, if you are somebody that overthinks or gets stuck in that spiral of doubt, or a perfectionist, or you spend a lot of time in your busy head, that worrying that you do and all the playing out of future experiences that never happen, or 99% of them never happen, that is what I would call the misuse of your imagination. And the brilliant news for you is if you can misuse your imagination for worry, we can retrain that part of your brain to be much more supportive, to stop self-sabotage, to really be putting you in a position of self-service rather than putting yourself down. And so we can retrain the mind, and that's exactly what we will be moving on to throughout the week. The idea of today is that I really want to build up your self-awareness and start to get you questioning where it is that you are being suggested to that you are not enough, where it is that your belief systems come from, because tomorrow we're going to give you loads of juicy content on how to unpick those limiting beliefs and turn them into self-beliefs as well. So we're going to start to ditch the self-doubt and rebuild self-belief. But first of all, we need to build up the awareness of where that's all coming from, because I really want to help you to tap into the power of your subconscious mind this week, because this is where the gold is. This is where the magic is. This is where you really get to understand your patterns and your blueprints that are running all on autopilot, and we get to influence and change those for the benefit. Because if we are being negatively brainwashed by all of those influences that impact our not enoughness, then we can also begin to take control and be brainwashed by all the things that we really want in our lives rather than all the things we're trying to resist. So we will be going deep into the power of your subconscious. So, my loves, your homework this week is, or today, is to take a 24-hour audit of your negative thinking. So every time you find yourself thinking a negative thought, a limiting belief, put me down, and in a critical statement, I would love for you to take a little note of it. Pop it in a diary, write it in a notebook, put it on your phone as a list in your notes, but start to take a 24-hour audit of your negative thinking, because you'll start to find what we're going to do tomorrow is some of them bunch up into groups and categories. So take a 24-hour audit of your negative beliefs. And then I'd love for you to question. This was a massive turning point for me in escaping the prison of not enoughness. Who would you be without the negative thinking, without the negative narrative? Like, who would you be if your self-belief was completely restored? And what would you do if you felt that you were good enough after all? Intriguing. You might want to do some journaling on that if the answers don't come automatically to you. And then once you have established these things, I would love for you to come into the Good Enough Club, which is on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, feel free to drop me these on email, naomi@naominoonan.com. Share your number one takeaway from today's presentation in the Good Enough Club with some of your thoughts about this homework, what's come up for you. If you're watching live, I encourage you to do that straight away, as soon as possible. And I've got this piece on the wrong slide. Share your number one takeaway, what you have gleaned from today that's made you go, aha, oh yes, I've got it. Share that in the Good Enough Club and take a 24-hour audit of your thoughts. Well, who would you be without your negative narrative? And what would you do if you felt good enough after all? Because in order to win the contest, this is where I'm coming on to. I would love for you to email me today's secret word. By Thursday, you will have 4 secret words. Today's secret word is cottage. So make a note of that word. Those of you watching on replay, you can have up until midday the following day to enter. So you've got all the way up to 11:59. Anything received after 11:59, null and void. So that you're watching the masterclasses, you're watching the masterclasses in order every day and keeping the pace. So it's a little bit of incentive to override the not enoughness in your subconscious, because I will be picking somebody as the winner to come into our next round of More Than Enough 6. It's a prize that has an investment of £1,111. So it's an incredibly powerful prize, and I would love to share this full experience with as many of you as possible. So do email me with the secret word, which today's is cottage, and then pop on over to the Facebook group to let us know what you've taken away from today, what you're starting to see differently, what you're going to implement going forward, and how excited you are for tomorrow. If you'd like to do that on social media too, please do tag me on Instagram. I'm Naomi_more_than_enough_Newland. That's me on Instagram. You'll find me Naomi Newland on Facebook, or send a screenshot to me of you sharing the world, sharing the love for our More Than Enough experience this week, sharing it with the world. So I cannot wait to receive those emails from you. I'll be back tomorrow at 12, and we will be moving right into limiting beliefs and how they impact us, how they affect us, and start to unpick this not enoughness so that we rebuild that self-belief that you are all here for. Email every day, please. Email every day. Email me every day before 12 midday the following day. So this is Monday's masterclass. You must have emailed me by Tuesday in order to be entered the competition. So I'm looking for 4 emails from you on Thursday. When I receive those 4 emails from you, then you will be entered into the prize draw to win the £1,111 gift of joining us on the 10-week More Than Enough next round 6 experience. 4 words. Shout about us on social media. Take a screenshot, send it over to me. Let me know what it is that you've enjoyed this week, and we will keep on meeting at 12 o'clock for half an hour. I've run a little over today. There was a lot to squeeze in tomorrow. It will definitely be down to that short half an hour for you. So thank you for putting on my voice. I'm going to go rest it now so that I'm all ready for tomorrow. Anyone watching on replay, let us know what you've experienced here today as well. Mwah! Sending so much love for you all. Take care, darlings. Bye bye. See you tomorrow at 12.